Zimbabweans are celebrating 38 years of independence today. It's the first anniversary without former longtime President Robert Mugabe. He stepped down in November and Emerson Mnangagwa took over. Mnangagwa has called the new period of openness and freedom a second independence. To talk to us about this new era in Zimbabwean politics is Moyo from the Movement for Democratic Change, South Africa. Mr. Moyo, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us this evening. So your first Independence Day as a country without Robert Mugabe at the helm, what did it feel like for those at home?
Well, there's not much that has changed in Zimbabwe, but as the MDC, we have always celebrated the Independence Day because our fathers, our brothers, our mothers died for this independence. So as it is happening now, there's nothing much that is happening except that there's a few people at the top that have changed. So we do not want an independence where only a few people who are in leadership benefit. We need an independence where every Zimbabwean benefits, because when you talk about independence, you talk about democracy. You talk about freedom of speech, freedom of association. A lot of people have left Zimbabwe because they are seeking freedom and independence, which is not, the space has not been given. And from Kukurahundi to Murambatsvina, right up to now, there are people who disappeared, who have not been accounted for. That is not independence. So we are still fighting for independence, and after August, we are sure that we'll have a new dispensation and the people of Zimbabwe can start to truly enjoy independence that was fought for.
I want to ask you about the upcoming elections in a moment, but let's focus a little bit on Emerson Mnangagwa's presidency. We know he's only been in power for a very short time, but since then we've still seen cash shortages in the country, we've seen high employment continuing, we've seen lots of public hospitals closing over a nurses' strike. Are you seeing a tangible difference in the way the country is being run post-Mugabe?
Like I said, that nothing much has changed. Actually, the situation is continuing to deteriorate. Sometimes I ask myself, what exactly are they focusing on? Because they're definitely not focusing on improving the economy. So the gains of Mnangagwa coming to the helm have not been realized. There's no gain that we can actually write home about. Because you remember when Mugabe stepped down, there was celebration. People in the diaspora were saying we'll be going back home. But there was this wait and see attitude to say, let's see if he really means what he is saying. But he has been a man of a lot of words, but no action.
So you haven't seen an influx of people coming back home from various neighboring countries, including South Africa? They flooded in.
There hasn't been an influx of people going back to the country because he has called for all the people who are outside the country to come back, especially those that are running businesses outside the country, to come and do business in Zimbabwe. But there are no incentives to encourage the people to go back. You need tangible incentives, something that is properly laid down. He came to South Africa and addressed the business community in Pretoria. But a lot of people were left outside this gathering. And even if they wanted to know exactly what incentives were there, they were left out. They only had to rely on what was written in the media instead of getting it from the horse's mouth.
By contrast, you sound fairly optimistic about the upcoming elections. What do you think is going to change?
I think the people of Zimbabwe have seen enough. And going to these elections in July, August, the people of Zimbabwe, they know how to choose. They have been fooled for a long time, and we are now moving into an era. Before our late President Morgan Tsvangirai, he said that we are moving into an era of the new generation. In 2012, we moved into the Aquarius age. And I believe that the president that we have now, Nelson Chamisa, he resonates with this age that we are in. And I am sure that in August, the people are going to choose correctly, and people must wait for a new dispensation to come in Zimbabwe.
All right, thank you so much for talking to us. Good to have you with us in studio this evening. Moyo is the shadow treasurer of the MDC.